Welcome to the latest edition of Here's What We Know, the podcast of unexpected conversations. As always, before we start this, let me say thank you to our sponsors who make all of this possible. Without them, I'm off doing something else. But today, a friend of mine goes, you need to read this book and you need to talk to this guy. And I'll be honest, most of my friends are kind of goofy and I'm like, yeah, whatever. But this time she was right. It's called Why Are You Sick? How to Reclaim Your Health with the Ultimate Health Model. And this is Benjamin L. Smith. Benjamin, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Gary?
I'm doing well, but I think I could do better, according to your book. I want to get into the journey because we'll talk about the book and stuff. But I mean, this was what got you here? What got you to this book?
What got me to that book? That's a great question. So, when my dad's a doctor, he's a dermatologist. Yeah, he's a dermatologist in Santa Monica. He's been a dermatologist for like 50 years. And so I always respected the medical profession and thought, they make a lot of money, one thing, but I also respected what they did. And so from a young age, I really respected my dad and, he was helping people and this and that. So when I was in high school, I just took, I got good grades, took general classes, then went to college. I just took a bunch of general things. I really like science. I really like to know how things work. And also from a young age, I would always ask my dad questions and he'd get angry at me. He'd say, I'd say, Dad, why is the sky blue? I say, is it because the reflection of the light off? I'd answer the question myself kind of thing because I'm always learning. You go, Ben, do you want me to answer it or you can answer it for me? Like you've got, and so I'm glad I asked questions that helped me write my book, but I was always curious.
Mm-hmm.
And so high school, I came to college, and then I just kind of started taking general classes. I never got a degree, and I became an auto detailer for the last 30 years. And in the process, I still would look into health things because I was interested in health. Turns out about 10 years ago, more than that, about 15 years, my sister got cancer, one of my sisters. And I just started asking more and more questions about that. And then she passed away in 2012. And I read some Buddhist books, like, why is this happening? And I wanted to understand. I didn't think the body wanted to kill itself. So I really just wanted to understand what was going on. My mom was diagnosed with cancer, my real mom, in 85, and it went into remission. And that was before I knew anything about health and anything. I was like, oh, it just went away, whatever. And it came back because she passed away in 2019. So it came back in I think 2018 or something, and she had to get the all this stuff again. And by that time, I already knew about health. And I was working on, I was doing all my research. I hadn't written the book yet, but I said to myself, Mom, you can't eat all these carbs. You can't do this. And I kind of said in my head too, because remember I write in the book that she wouldn't listen because I'm not a doctor. And I kind of felt helpless. And so since she passed away in 2019, I'm like, this is uncool. Something's got to change. And so I thought I got to start doing something else. I got to help people. So I thought I'm going to be a health coach.
Mm-hmm.
I go, that's great because I can help people and do all these things. So I signed up with the Primal Health Coaching Institute because they aligned with my values about going back to the primal way of living, grounding, like I write in the book, eating, real food, drinking good water, all these things. I thought, okay, I got my certificate, but then I didn't want to babysit people. I don't want to say, okay, John, eat one less cookie tomorrow. We'll talk in a couple of weeks. We'll talk next week. Hey, John, how many cookies did you eat last week? Oh, I ate 10. I told you 9. You made, oh, it's okay. What's all right? We'll work. I wasn't interested in babysitting people. I don't have that kind of patience.
Uh-huh.
So my friend said, why don't you write a book? I said, oh, okay, I'll write a book.
Yeah. How long did it take?
3 years.
And
I spent lots of money on people that did not do a good job. I had a ghostwriter that helped me write it.
Yeah.
The first ghostwriter, I spent about $7,000 with her, and then I realized she couldn't write, Gary. It was too scientific. And I looked at it, I'm like, Gary, this just I looked, I go, this just isn't good. I thought she had a lot of science, but it wasn't my story. It wasn't personal like it is now.
Yeah.
And so I had to fire her. I found another ghostwriter $30,000 later. And she wrote the foundation of the book, which was great. She
Yeah.
helped put the pieces together, but her writing was great, but I had to rewrite it to make it funny, relatable, and all these things. And it was just excruciatingly hard. As you know, after reading my book, all these concepts are all interrelated. So trying to separate them out was excruciatingly painful. And to make it a story, as I did. And so then with that ghostwriter, they had an editing team, and they edited the book. And I looked, I go, this is horrible editing. And I knew nothing about writing books or publishing because it was the first one. But something in my gut told me this is not good editing. And so I had to fire them. Then, yeah, I know it's a long story. Then I found my current editors and publishers and my publicist, and they're fantastic. Melanie, my editor, is absolutely genius, worth words. We went over every sentence, every letter, every word to make sure it was right. And we came up with this beautiful book. But it was excruciatingly hard to do.
Well, I think that's what most people find out. I've talked to a number of authors, and you, depending on the topic, I mean, they're never easy. Even writing your own life story is not easy. You'd think it would be, no. And the stuff you think you'd remember, you forgot. And what you have remembered, probably remembered it wrong. you know, because I have three older sisters, and they'll tell about something that happened because I was an inspector, and they'll tell about something that happened, and one of them will go, "No, that's not that the way that happened," and they were all in the same room. No, 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 no. You don't know. No, she said, and then so when you're trying to put all this together, and I've had a ghostwriter on as a guest on the podcast and stuff, and I asked him what's the process like, and he goes, "It's intense. It's very intense. I interview people for a week at a time." and
Mhm.
and take all of these notes, and then they have to be on call so I can call up and go, "Hey, when you said about this, do you remember, or can you find somebody who can back
Mhm.
this up that maybe they remember a little bit more than you do?" And it's fascinating, the whole thing, even if you're trying to write a book that just basically, why are you sick? That seems easy, right? you know Especially if
Well,
you.
no, speaking of that, yeah. Um, when I had the second ghostwriter that wrote the foundation, I had to fire them. That was not good enough either. And then my mom, God bless her, she said, Ben, you've got to make this more interesting and funny and relatable. And so then I had to change my whole mindset, Gary, and say, F it. Literally, that's what I said in my brain. I don't care if anyone reads this book. And I just got to lay it out there because I swear in the book a little bit. I kind of am raw, and I kind of found my voice. And I think that is the most difficult part about writing, because if you can't write in the first person like I'm able to do, because I have that gift, thank God, then the book is going to be really sterile. And I think that's something you can't learn. You can be trained, you can get better at it, but kind of like Eddie Van Halen, you need to. It's a gift to be able to write that well. And I don't know where it came from for me. When I was a kid, I wrote short stories. When I was 12 years old, I wrote like stories about. I remember this one story about a killer shopping cart. Yeah, I know, it's kind of funny, and it would like go around in supermarkets and like run people over. It was just kind of weird, but I do remember writing a couple of short stories. But my point is that that's my untapped, talent that I didn't even know I had.
They stole your idea for The Good Place. Did you ever watch The Good Place?
No.
The Good Place is the character dies and wakes up in what she thinks is heaven. The way she dies is she's run over by a shopping cart.
No way. Have you seen the movie The Car in
Oh, with
the
Steven Spielberg
1977?
and the one with D
No,
Stone.
that's
No,
Christine.
oh,
That's
Christine, the
Christine.
car,
It
which
was for 77. It was a black, like old Lincoln Continental that was like a 75 or 65 Continental. And that was before Christine.
I bet
You
you
got to
I
watch
have
The
read that.
Car.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's the
really good.
car and there's the duel. You ever watch the duel
Oh,
with Dennis
Duel
Hopper?
is one of my
Steven
favorite.
Spielberg's first
Oh
big
my
ones.
God, that movie is so excellent. The acting from Dennis Hopper is it Hopper?
Yeah, Dennis Hopper.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, he
I love
lets
that.
you
Oh,
understand the panic and
there you go. I love that
and you
movie.
saw the beginnings of Spielberg there, right?
Oh yeah,
I,
incredible.
because he got that whole Jaws thing from the
Oh my
duel.
God, incredible,
Is just the
incredible.
pacing and the scaredness, and you never see the driver of the truck. You never.
No, no, but it's so the way he does it is the suspense it builds. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Did you read a lot? Are you a reader?
Yeah, I read a lot of science stuff. I'm not really a casual reader. I don't read for like uh, you know, history books or anything. I just like a lot of science because I'm so into the way things work. And for the last 10 years, I've read thousands of articles to come up with this book. But no, more. It's not for pleasure. It's more just to learn.
Wow. I I kind of do both. I don't read. I'll read books because I read a lot of books for the podcast. As I told you when I got when we decided to have you come on, I tell everybody you got to give me a few weeks because I've got to be able to read the book. If I can't read the book, I don't need to talk to you. And I'm always shocked by how many people are like, how many authors go, you read the book? Really? Yeah, yeah. I'm in the process of reading. I don't know. I got three on the book on the queue right now. But I do. Luckily, I'm an English lit major, and I can't write a book. I'd never be able to write a book, but I can read one. I can read the hell out of a book. I can put that book into my head. But I read a lot of. I read some science articles, but some science books, but mainly it's science articles. Simply because the data changes so much. I mean, what they thought when I was growing up, everything they thought in astrophysics, almost everything, has been proven wrong or
Yeah,
incomplete.
and you say that. It's interesting to say that. Um, I watch a lot of podcasts and YouTube videos with doctors I really respect. There's one Dr. Sean Baker, Dr. Ken Berry, all these kind of low carb carnivore doctors, which is my align what I align my values with. But I remember watching a video one time, and a doctor came on. Another doctor said, um, he was talking about what he learned in medical school, and they said the teacher told him that 50% of what you are going to learn you're going to find out is incorrect. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. He said the teacher to the medical students said 50% of what I'm telling you right now you're going to find out is incorrect. And I thought that was really interesting.
Well, I have a friend of mine who is a surgeon and cancer surgeon. And what he will say and what he will tell you is that your cancer is unique to you because it's your body and your body is not like anybody else's. So maybe you have cervical cancer or pancreatic cancer or skin cancer or lung cancer. We have a lot of data on how we've treated it in other people, but we don't know how to treat it exactly in you. So it's a number of experiments and we constantly tinker till we figure out what works with you. And it's the same thing. When I was reading your book, I had the same feelings. I mean, I encourage you to read the book and see if it works for you because you lay out some very interesting things. You get into the nuts and bolts and the mitochondria and cellular works and all the stuff like that. And I'm gonna leave it to everybody else to dive deep in on that. But I just love talking about some of the other things. As I told you, one of the things that I read and I'm like, structured water? What? My only complaint right off the bat with you, Benjamin, took me a while to figure out what the hell structured water was. Tell everybody before you even get started your thoughts on water and structured water.
Okay, so as I write in the book, in the structured water chapter, I write that water is all there is. and I write that all biological information is stored in water, probably all information is stored in water. And water is, basically there's water with a few elements thrown in for good measure. So um, I have been studying water for about 8, 10 years or so, 12 years, because it just fascinates me. And the first uh, way I started getting into that was I had an ex-girlfriend who would get bottled water like this, but from from a company. And where I live here in Sonoma County, there was a company that, got spring water from, I think, Cobb Mountain or something, and put it in bottles and delivered it. And that was my first experience with it. I'm like, this is really good water. Man, there's something to water. And so that's my first experience with water, and how important it is. So we broke up, and then I just started really getting into water. And I watched a movie called The Miracle of Water. And that's what started my journey right there. They started talking about the how water is revered through antiquity for um its power, and that people respected it, worshipped it, all these different things. The Native American cultures just worshipped water, and I just wondered why. So I kept diving deeper and deeper, and I realized that water, like I write in the book, is consciousness. Water Consciousness expresses itself through water, and it just all the pieces fell into place. And I thought about rivers, I thought about streams, and I thought about all these things. And then when I started looking into structured water, the I started realizing that the molecules of water, the H2O, would structure together in patterns. That's why it's a polar molecule, because it's like Lego blocks. They'll structure together. And like I write in the book, they do this a billion times a second, or trillion. They're constantly doing this, coming apart, pull together, and that's what's passing information. And so when I realized that, I was like, this is the holy grail of everything. And also, I realized that I thought about snowflakes, and so I would just start putting things together, pieces together, like, oh, why is this doing this? Snowflakes are structured water. Ice is structured water. And what happens is that water structures around minerals. So minerals aren't food. There's something for water to structure around. And it's that structuring capability that passes the information. So a snowflake structures around a piece of dust in the air, starts making all these beautiful crystals. Like you've seen a snowflake under a mat. They're all different, because these water molecules are making all these different patterns. And all that is information. And it just fascinated me. I'm like, why is this doing this? And then I realized that this is like the universal computer that's making everything, from the plants and the trees and us and the microbes, and everything just move in the universe.
Well, if you were to come at us from another solar system, you would view us as a water planet, right? You would not view us as it would be a rocky water planet. And you can go weeks without food. How many days can you go without water before you die? Isn't it like
2 or 3,
2 or 3 days
Mhm.
that your body will just shut down, because we are water animals? And I think that's one of the things that rang true to me in your book. And you hear everybody say it, and I'll say it straight off the bat. We don't drink enough water. I don't drink enough water. And I get bored by water. When I have to force myself to drink water, I have to force it to make myself go, okay, even after a run or a long bike ride and I'm dying of sweat, you know, I have to force that down, because we crave flavor. We crave flavor. We do. And good water, you know what really good water tastes like? Nothing. It tastes like nothing. That's what really good water tastes like. But but I also understand how impactful it is. And your book does a great thing of talking about the little things that we could be doing. That even some of the things that you were talking about, that, yeah, you should be doing this and that and this food and that food and this food. My big takeaway, and we'll get to the other side of this here in just a second, more water, and we need to figure out how to sleep better. Now, you realize the first time this study came out this week, speaking of studies, because I take myself on it, this is the first time since the 1960s, 50s, that the majority of people polled in America, the majority said they don't get at least 7 hours of sleep for the first time in our history.
Yeah. So let me explain that. So, and once I get it into my book, everything is connected. So the water's connected to the sleep, is connected to the breathing, it's connected all these different things. So you're saying people aren't getting enough sleep. Why are they not getting enough sleep? Because when people read my book, all the things on the red side, remember the model I created?
Yeah.
All the things on the red side are causing insomnia because it's causing chronic dehydration. Remember that model in the circles?
Mm-hmm.
Everything on the green side is causing better sleep because it's causing optimal hydration. And so, so people are going to have to read the book a bunch of times to really understand. It's very complicated. Also, it's very simple. But these are the reasons. And so, when you said that about the sleep and people are getting less sleep than ever before, the main reason I believe is because of the things we're talking on right now. So that is one of the red side factors that's causing cellular stress. People might have heard the term oxidative cellular stress, and it's also creating dehydration, causing inflammation. That circle in my book is so important for people to understand. The other thing that's a problem that wasn't happening 30 or 40 years ago is the mineral deficiencies in the soil. Remember on my model,
Yeah.
I said mineral deficiencies cause chronic dehydration. So the chronic dehydration, what that's doing is it's taking certain amino acids, one of them is tryptophan, and using it as an antioxidant to help in the dehydration part. So it's not able to use it for melatonin because melatonin is a hormone made of proteins. See, so the problem is it's all interconnected. So when you're dehydrated, it's taking essential amino acids that are used to make the protein melatonin, which is needed to help for sleep and causing that problem. Also, as you read in the sleep chapter, their circadian rhythms are being disrupted by all the things on the red side and not doing things on the green side. That's why that model is so important once people see it and understand it to do. So I can answer all questions most likely with my model. And that's what's so interesting about it. You can just ask it a question. Like you just said, why are people not getting enough sleep? And all these scientists are like, well, we don't know. It's this, we have no idea. It's all the things on the red side are causing insomnia. All the things on the green side are going to help you sleep better.
I want to tell you why I am all in on Bison Junk. First and foremost, they are a full-service, eco-friendly junk removal company, but with this difference, they focus on recycling and donating usable goods. Their customer service sets them apart, and they pride themselves on their integrity. They'll show up when they say they will, and they'll do what they promise. If you have hard-to-remove items like hot tubs or large furniture, they figure it out so you don't have to. They want to be who you always come back to when it's time to declutter and organize your home or business. They're worth every penny at bisonjunk.com. Sterling Oak Cabinetry has one goal: to build the cabinets of your dreams. They literally specialize in custom cabinetry. No cookie cutter, everything looks the same stuff that you find at the big box stores. Your kitchen is the centerpiece of your home, and your home is your biggest investment. They can work with you or your designer to build just what you want with the materials and finish that you want. And because they're a brand new company, they'll be getting busier and busier, but if you order right now, they'll get your order to you in 6 to 8 weeks. In the world of cabinetry, that's blindingly fast. Contact Rob Scovman at RSKOVMAND at yahoo.com or go to sterlingoakcabinetry.com and get your dreams made reality tomorrow.
Let's talk dirt.
Okay, let's talk dirt.
Tell me about the importance of the soil or dirt. Let's get dirty, Benjamin.
Dirty.
What?
So soil is not just dirt. It's all the microbes in the dirt. There's 1 billion approximately 1 billion microbes in 1 teaspoon of soil. And the complexity of what's under our feet is just, we don't even know half of it. We probably know 1% of it. I don't know what the percentage is. We don't know what's going on. A lot of it's down there. When we do our traditional methods of farming and agriculture, monocropping, that is not a natural system for the earth. You don't see a row of corn in nature because there's all this diversity. And so what happens is they spray everything on the soil, and they have this one crop growing. It's destroying the microbes. So the plants aren't able to uptake the minerals from the soil because those microbes in the soil are what transfer the minerals into the plant into a bioavailable form. So when they damage the microbe system in the soil, the minerals stay stuck in the soil and they're not in the plant. If they're not in the plant, they're not in you. So what you're eating today are basically pieces of plastic with a little bit of minerals in it, but it's not the same as it was 50 years ago. Like I write in the book, 50 years ago, you could eat 1 apple. Now you got to eat 10. So it's the mineral deficiencies. So back to the soil. So nature abhors this kind of mono system because everything is, there's so much different ecology. There's the plants and the animals, the squirrels, and then the insects, and the birds eat the insects, right? It's just everything works together. And when we monocrop, we're destroying that system. And in turn, we are causing really a lot of problems, Gary, as you know. We have to fix this. This is not up for debate because future generations, it's not going to be a pretty picture. So we've all got to work together and fix this problem because people are sweeping it under the rug. But you can't sweep it under the rug because it's there, it's happening, and we have to fix it.
Well, and it's multi-layered too.
It is.
That I understand why we do monocrops, and I understand that you're going to have a food shortage. I mean, I grew up in the South. I worked on farms and stuff, and you try to rotate the crops, and you do that. You try to get the pH balance, the fertilizer, and everything else. But it's a hard game. Farming's a hard game,
Well, yeah.
and if we don't have enough food, now you start talking about what most of the wars throughout history were fought over, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Here's something interesting, though, is that structured water, okay, especially the device that I use and I recommend on my website, the MEA one you read in the book, he's able to increase crop yield by like 30%. I don't know the exact number. I can't remember. These are the exact numbers. My point is that if we're able to use structured water in fields, then we can increase the crop yield and help to feed the population. The other thing is we need to put cows on all the planet and ruminants, the places that are not arable land, because there's 2/3 of the land is unarable because it's hilly. You can't grow crops, right? And the other you can grow the crops. So the ones you can't grow crops on, we need to stick cows and ruminants on there so they can produce highly bioavailable proteins for humans to eat. Because I eat just mostly meat and a few veggies here and there. But there's plenty of ways we can fix this problem about food shortage. We just have to start thinking in the right directions.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating questions, fascinating topic that we got into. And when it comes to, I mean, there's you have a book called Why Are You Sick? We're going to talk about the eating part, which is always everybody's least favorite thing to talk about. Because you're a believer in the intermittent fasting.
Yes.
Yeah. And your definition of intermittent fasting is
not eating all the time. So let me explain that. So, like I write in the book, every time you put something in your mouth, you use insulin, unless it's fat. And most people, when they put something in their mouth, it's a candy bar or some kind of snack that's carbohydrates. Now, like I write in the book, sugar the reason sugar is bad is because it thickens the blood. Just like if you mix up water and sugar together and make a meal in your cooking. That's what nobody really talks about. They talk about how we need insulin to get that sugar out of the blood, which is super important, but they don't really say why. The why is because it thickens the blood. If you don't get the sugar out of the blood, you're going to die because it's not going to flow. That's what insulin does. So the intermittent fast is every time you put something in your mouth, sugar, because most people they're not putting a piece of beef in their mouth, right? They're putting cookies or candy bars. All that is carbs. It all turns into sugar. The body has to remove it and use insulin. So every time you do that, the body's like, okay, we had enough of this. Stop feeding us food all the time. And then your pancreatic beta cells wear out in your pancreas because you keep feeding it all the time and it wears out. Something really important about insulin in the pancreas. This people don't know. The main job of the pancreas, you know the pancreas, right?
Yeah,
You've heard
yeah.
of pancreas. Okay, it produces insulin, right? That's what you've heard, right? That's not the main job of the pancreas. The main job of the pancreas is to create a watery bicarbonate solution to neutralize the stomach acid content coming into the small intestine. Because if it didn't do that, that acidic contents would destroy your small intestine. So it creates a sodium bicarbonate solution and irrigates the small intestine so that the food can go in there. So get this, insulin requires water to go into the cells. The job of the bicarbonate solution is more important. So it puts insulin on the back burner. You see the point here?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're dehydrated, you're going to have insulin signaling problems because the body's first job is to make sure that you don't destroy the small intestine. It doesn't care about the insulin. That's secondary because it needs water to take the insulin into the cells. And if they're dehydrated, it has to, like I wrote in the book, it has to position water in different parts of the body as like a water management system. And the main things get it first. Your pancreas, your heart, your lungs, your brain, your skin's on way down the list. They don't care about your skin. You need the other things. That's what people don't talk about or know about. And that's some of the deeper stuff that I cover that I find very interesting.
When it comes to exercise, let me ask right off the top, what's your exercise? What do you do? Tell me what you did. What was today's workout or what's tomorrow's?
All right. So I have a trainer I work out with 3 times a week. Oh yeah. And I also have a Pilates instructor. So, like I write in the book, chronic stress, we do aerobic stuff. So people running, right? Listen, people running down the street, you see them jogging all the time. That's chronic stress. You want the adaptive intermittent stress, meaning weight training. So that's an adaptive stress that's only intermittent, or it's not chronic, like running a marathon, because the chronic stress, as my model shows, can contribute to chronic disease. So what I do is I do just the working out at my gym with my trainer, the resistance training, and I'll do 5 minutes of warm up, not 30 minutes on a cardio, like 5 minutes on a rower. That's it. Because you want your mitochondria, you want as many mitochondria and as functional mitochondria as you can, like I write in the book. That's one of your main jobs and exercise builds mitochondria because it builds muscle. The more muscle you have, the more mitochondria you will have. So these are things, like I said, people don't talk about or know.
I'm a runner.
You're a runner. Well, you got to do things on the green side. You got to do things on the green side to mitigate it.
Whenever you pick up one of these books and stuff like that, this is where I go. I sit back and I go, okay, what am I going to feel bad about today? Right? what am I going to go, right. And no, I agree with you. Especially as I get older, I am trying to incorporate more and more weightlifting. But the problem is, and here's what I say, my rebuttal is, if you don't like doing it, you won't do it. And I think most health people would say it's better to do something than nothing. And the inactivity, we've seen these studies over the last few years, especially as we become more and more doing what I'm doing, sitting at a desk and working. Right? We're not out there doing what my grandparents did, what my father did. I mean, get out and work with your hands. And we had a garden in the backyard, and that was all the kind of stuff. And I grew up working on farms and stuff and realized I never want to work that hard in my life. Can I sit in a room and talk to a stick? Can I do that? Yeah, I'm gonna do that job. Uh, but it's we don't do that. And so the inactivity. So I encourage you, whatever it is. And like I said, I took some things from that going, Gary, right. You keep reading this. It needs to have more and more weightlifting, especially as I get older. I need more of that bone density. I need more of that, just your thing about stress was like, I get it. I get it. That running is stressful. It's tough. It's a stress that I enjoy, but it's still a stress. So that's why we sit back and say, I encourage you to read the book. Are you going to agree with everything? No, no. Sitting down with Benjamin, you're not going to agree with everything, but you're not going to sit back and go, well, damn, he's wrong. That's what I enjoyed, is because it made me think, there are certain things in here that make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed that, where I'm like, I can see that. We talked about the soil, and we talked about structured water, and we talked about how your body uses things, and the sleep, and how it's all tied together. I mean, that sequential argument works for me.
Yeah. Well, and the thing too is that what's interesting is that the model I create is so simple, also very complex. So you can, a scientist or some kind of researcher could look at that model, and we can ask some really technical questions about, how does the chronic inflammation, contribute to the dehydration, and what enzymes do, because you can do all these things with it. There's a lot to this model. But on the opposite side of that, Gary, for someone that doesn't care, you tell them, like my book says, remember on the back cover, the jingle we have: green side good, red side bad, do the green side, it'll make you glad. That's it. That's all you need to know. Do as many things on the green side as you can, and as few things on the red side as you can. And I guarantee 100% you will feel better. Every person that's read my book so far, from my editor to my publisher and my publicist, have gotten better. My editor alone, which is really, really impactful, she, from reading my book and writing my book with me, got a farm and got some cows. And she lives in Texas. And I thought, that's really impactful. That really makes me happy. My dad, very stubborn guy, been, doing the same thing for 60 years. He's taken the fulvic and humic acid because he believes in me and knows I know what I'm talking about. And that just makes me like elated, And one last thing, this is really important. One of my notes about structured water. My mom's cousin had a heart, or has heart disease, is in like a recovery home, and he was alcoholic, overweight, so he's in a recovery home trying to get better. Right? He's been taking the structured water that I recommend, the MEA devices, for the last 6 months. That's all he drinks. Okay, and then eats the hospital food. He had a heart attack a couple days ago. I think it was a couple days ago. My mom didn't give me the exact timing on that. The doctors came in, were looking at his EKG. His arteries were blocked. And then they were unblocked instantaneously. Like the calcium dissolved because he was taking the structured water. The structured water is able to transform elements into other things.
Wow.
I know. And that's why I don't want to tell you, that's how remarkable structured water is. It can take glyphosate. You've heard of glyphosate, the pet everyone's worried about. It can transform and transmute these toxic things into other things, because structured water is a liquid crystal. And one of the properties of crystals is they can transform energy, they can transmute it, they can amplify it, they can change it. And that's all water is, a liquid crystal. So it's literally taking these things, breaking them apart into elemental compounds and making them so they're inert and not harmful. I find that fascinating. And there is a perfect example with my mom's cousin. Now, I wasn't there, so I don't know the exact details. From what she told me, that's pretty remarkable.
One of the things, and maybe you haven't noticed, but I was going to point it out to you. One of the things
Yeah.
I do that I nailed from the book, when I picked it up and I said, ha, already do it. You notice I breathe through my nose? Do you notice? I always have, right? Unless I have a cold.
Good for you.
But otherwise, I breathe through my nose.
Good. That's so important. And I'm glad you brought that up because I was a mouth breather for 50 years and I had asthma. I remember I write in the book, and my asthma was caused in part by my mouth breathing, and nobody told me. And now that I'm nose breathing, all my problems have gone away. Not just from the nose breathing, because I do all things on the green side, but I had a cyst on my arm that went away. I had foot pain that went away. And this is kind of a personal story, but I'm going to share it anyway because I think it's really important for your listeners. And no one wants to talk about it because it's embarrassing, but I had hemorrhoids. And I've had them for 20 years. I had external ones first, and then I had internal ones. I've had them for 10 years, the internal ones. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do all the things in my book. I wrote about it that's going to help reduce inflammation and make them go away. And so I did all the things on the green side and they got better, but I've had them for 10 years. I finally got them fixed surgically a couple weeks ago. And I've never felt better. But my point is, by doing the things in my book, Gary, and on my model on the green side, I prevented major health complications from having those hemorrhoids. So all the things I was doing on the green side, even though I had the hemorrhoids and they were bleeding and they were pain, since I was doing all the things on the green side by drinking structured water, nose breathing, the amount of inflammation that I had in my body was so low that even though I had the inflammation from the hemorrhoids, it wasn't causing a horrible imbalance, making me in a wheelchair. And does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I thought that's really fascinating that even with that really bad health problem, by doing my book that I wrote and the stuff on the green side, I was able to mitigate that for 10 years, thank God. But it was painful, it was horrible, and now they're gone. I have zero health problems, none. Zero. Literally at 55, there's nothing. I have no diabetes, no heart, nothing. And so I want to be able to help other people do that by doing the green side, and you'll see changes, period.
As I said, you'll read it and you'll go, yeah, I can work with that. Yeah, I can do that, or I could do that. Like I said, some of the stuff you'll go, that's the beauty about being alive. But you will not doubt that anything he's saying doesn't have some sort of sense that you can go, all right, I see where you got there. And, once you talk about hemorrhoids, you are at the end. It's why are you sick? And this is your first podcast ever, right, Benjamin? You did a great job. I enjoyed this. You can find out his website, all the other stuff in our show notes at the bottom of this episode. Benjamin L. Smith, thank you, my friend.
Thanks a lot.